So tell me about Accelerate H2O and how that came about, how you came up with this idea, wonderful idea. And I was supposed to speak at your conference in October, and I was in Puerto Rico.
Right, right.
But I'd love to know the backstory of how that came about.
So this was driven by then Governor Perry, now Secretary of Energy Perry. Texas went into the worst drought on record. 2010, 2011 was kind of moving up in that.
Right.
All right. And so about 2013, I got a call from the governor and some of the staff, and he said at the time, I'm going to take $2 billion out of the rainy day fund, oddly enough called the rainy day fund. He was going to reorganize the major water board agency in the state.
Right.
That $2 billion was focused on concrete and rebar infrastructure,
right.
which was right. But he said, Seline, we got to be taking a look at more than just concrete and rebar. Can you come down, take a look at, go around the state, try to figure this out? So we're still living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I came down. In over about a year plus period, I went out around the state, had 180 different meetings.
Wow.
And you start realizing in a place like Texas that anything dealing with water started every conversation with, well, Richard, you know that, scotch is for drinking and water's for fighting, all right? If I told you how many times I heard that, it got to the point where I would start every meeting, every conversation, please do not start, But Texans, and I think this is true for a lot of people in the Southwest, less for y'all over in Louisiana, right? But for us in Texas and Southwest, water rights and water ownership drive the conversation, always have, okay? When you're in the middle of a drought, you got water and I don't. Will you give me some of your water? And no, Richard, I'm pretty happy with the water I got. Well, I'll see you in the court, okay? So we went around the state, and it came back that Texas is a $9+ billion water technology marketplace, but you would never know it because we're so big and fragmented.
Right.
We have 23 universities doing water and water technology research. We have 7,000 water agencies. Oh my God, David!
7,000.
So remember, you and I would look at these states and other places. So like Pennsylvania has more townships than any place else. Right. We had 7,000, everything from big metropolitan utilities down to small rural irrigation districts, okay? We have 5,000 corporate campuses. Dow and Valero on the Gulf Coast, very similar to what you've got in New Orleans.
Right.
And then Campbell Soup makes all of their tomato products for North America are made in Texas, Kimberly-Clark, and so we have a lot of corporate water users, right? And then we have these thousands of farms and ranches that don't do cattle and cotton as much anymore. They do oil and gas and water, right?
Can I make an observation? You just caused me to think of this. Texas is it's a whole nother country,
Right.
And it is like its own country, very independent. But Texas itself is divided because in East Texas, there's often too much water.
Right.
In West Texas, there's not enough.
Right. So I-35 is the dividing line.
That's the demarcation, right?
Yeah, that's the dividing line.
Right.
Okay. And that dividing line, I'll share something in a second. That dividing line has become pretty interesting. On the east side, we look like you in Louisiana. Too much water.
Right.
Okay. On the west side, we look like Southwest and California.
Right.
Persistent drought.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What's weird is in the first year and a half of Accelerate H2Os, we started doing these industry roundtables, invitation only, bringing industry, government, academia, private sector, being able to have off the record conversations to delve into what the problems were.
Right.
And we did one on data and instrumentation. All right, data and instrumentation. 1 week before we did the roundtable, National Weather Service and NOAA declared the area from Dallas-Fort Worth to San Antonio as flash flood alley. It's the most prolific place in America for constant flash floods.
Now, see, that's interesting because we think of San Antonio being in West Texas.
Right, right, and it is. I mean,
it is.
It is kind of the beltway to the hill country to the south, right?
But you're having all this flash flooding occur
right.
in that same alley. That's fascinating.
so Accelerate H2O ultimately was formed as a neutral third-party entity, a 501c3,
Right.
not as a charity, but these are, again, things that we both learned from economic development. You
Right.
sometimes need a neutral entity
Right,
to
neutral
bring
third
the
party.
supply
Right.
and demand, the market together.
Right.
Okay. And so that's what we were formed. And so we had a little bit of money from the state, a little bit of money from a foundation, a little bit of money from a private sector, and
Yeah.
off to the races.